Ronnie Whelan is one of the greatest Irish footballers that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's not always necessarily viewed as such, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it's a curious one.
He is. I would say maybe you have to be a certain generation. Maybe younger people wouldn't. I would have thought he'd be regarded.
But we're talking about the Giles and Brady's get mentioned as the greatest footballers of all time, and that generation is long since.
Well, we were in Turkey when I spoke to Ronnie. It was the day of the Ireland Turkey friendly, and the night before I was out with two colleagues, Tony Dunnett, Marty, and Paul Lennon, and we're all about the same vintage, and we were picking our best Irish team from sort of 1985, Jack Charlton's appointment.
You've done that in every dinner
we love
for
doing
at least 30 years.
We love doing it, And it's funny, Ronnie was in, even though we agreed that probably he didn't have his best games. He probably had a better club career than he had an international career. But Euro 88, he was huge. People don't realise what a great player he was.
Even if you look at the span, like you mentioned it here, like you talk about the captaincies. We'll get to the captaincies and those two major tragedies momentarily. Yeah. But he spanned, 79 to 94. When Laurie Lowe made the trophies, you say his time spanned the last ties to Shankly and the first to the Spice Boys. Ray Clements was in goal for his first Liverpool game, and David James, God love him, for his last. 15 years at a top flight club. We talked about Wenger being 22, being a manager. I mean, this isn't necessarily going to happen all that often anymore either.
Yeah. I think Ronnie's career probably compares favourably to that of Roy Keane at Manchester United.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of his influence, and also in terms of the way his game was moulded. Keane was signed as a sort of midfielder who broke forward and scored lots of goals. And look at his record for Man United earlier. Then he morphed into sort of the shielding midfielder, the Kante role of today. And Ronnie was an outside left almost when he went from home farm to Liverpool. And then when Fagan left and Dalglish took over, people thought Ronnie could be gone here because they signed Barnes and they signed Beardsley and they signed Ray Houghton, and suddenly how was Ronnie Whelan going to fit into this?
Slot him in the middle.
And he slotted him as a holding midfielder beside Steve McMahon, and Ronnie said it was the making of me in many ways. Injuries did cost him a couple of big matches and a couple of cup finals as well, which one of which he was most annoyed about. 88 against Wimbledon.
It still seems to nibble at him.
It nibbled, yeah. And he was very good about it because that season 87-88, he reckoned it was the best Liverpool team he played in. And they were denied him playing in Europe because of events of Heysel, where Ronnie was captain, which people overlook. He was also captain at Hillsborough. So two hugely emotive moments there. But 87-88 season, they were the great entertainers, and they were probably what Man City have been this season. They didn't mind conceding the odd goal, but they scored 3 or 4. And he said Barnes was electric on the wing and Beardsley up front with Aldridge. And Aldridge was a goal scoring machine. And they won the league by a comfortable margin. They beat a very good Man United team, I think by about 8 or 9 points. And it was a good Man United team. And then they go to the cup final and they're playing our old friends Wimbledon. And it's going to be a double. It's a 4-0 nailed on. And Whelan isn't picked. And I said to him, I looked at the stats and I said, a week later you played for Ireland an international match on the way to Euro 88. Why didn't you play this cup final? And he goes, can you let me out? Because I'd missed a couple of games, come back, played a game, had a sub. And he said, no, I'm going to leave you out. He didn't even make me sub. He said...
only 2 subs.
And he said, and that hurt, he said. And the annoying thing was that they lost 1-0 and 2 days later they were playing the Alan Hansen testimonial, the Monday night. And Dalglish throws him the armband and says, you lead the team out. And he said, 2 days later, I wasn't even in the squad. So that hurt a little bit. And I think, and he said, you know what, of all the matches he played, and he just made a little point, he played lots of big games, but they played Wimbledon a few months later in the Charity Shield, and he said, and we won. It was just a little observation.
That's very Mourinho-esque to be leading on a Charity Shield.
There's a great story in that because I was a steward at that game.
Really?
I was a steward at Wembley.
Why, hold on a minute now. How do you fall into being a steward at Wembley in 88?
I was a student at the time and I went to London, as a lot of people do, or did back then to work for somewhere. And one of the things, I went to an employment agency and they gave you a different job. Like one day you might be moving furniture, you might be... I was washing dishes at Royal Ascot and Wimbledon with the tennis, but also one of the jobs was a steward at Wembley. We've got a whole section, we've got a whole piece with you.
This is a chapter of the book.
So one of the jobs was, I did a few things. There was a big Amnesty International concert at Wembley that year, and Pink Floyd, where I did that, and Michael Jackson. And then I did a tournament with Arsenal, Sampdoria, and a few people.
The Makita.
But the Charity Shield was one. And I'll always remember because it was long before I had any interest in the media, but I was stationed below the radio box, or the TV commentary box, and Brian Moore, the great Brian Moore, was going up the steps, and he said, how are you? I said, how are you, Brian? Gentlemen. But it's funny, the first time I ever came to Dublin on a trip was I was 14. It was a home farm friendly against Liverpool, and it was part of the Ronnie Whelan transfer deal. They played them in 81. Liverpool won 5-0, and it was Grobbelaar's first game. And I remember him doing handstands on the goal mat, doing all the nonsense he used to come out with. But it's interesting what he says about that Charity Shield game. He went in and he kicked the crap out of Wimbledon himself and Steve McMahon. And he said Laurie Sanchez could have been sent off for kicking him back, and he said maybe a bit of that was missing in the cup final. He was out to make his point.
He says a bit of that was certainly missing as Liverpool's fortunes started to crumble and all that. I'm interested, did he talk much about, because I know he talked about his managerial stint in Greece with Panionios and then on to Cyprus as well, and Olympiacos and Apollon Limassol and stuff like that. Like Olympiacos Nicosia, he was managing there. Why didn't the management thing take hold with Ronnie?
He said did well at Southend. They were actually the top half in the championship, and they lost the two centre halves around January, and they went from being 4th or 5th down the table. He got Panionios to the quarter final of the Cup Winners' Cup against Lazio, and Alexis Salas and Mikhailov, and he said they had a 70 million team. He said we did well to get nil, and then he went to Olympiacos, and he said they were in second or third place with a couple of games to go, and he was sacked, but they qualified for Europe, and he was due a bonus, and he was told to drop it, but he went through the English FA and he got his money. But his last gig was at Apollonia, Limassol, and he said it was very scary there. People were following him home after games. At least I think they were following me home after games. He said maybe that had a bit of paranoia side to him, but it was all a bit edgy and a bit scary, and he kind of felt maybe it's time to get out of here. And you know what he said? One of the reasons he didn't keep going to manager, he loved playing, and he was still able to play. He was able to join in at the time, and
still only 56,
and he still loves to play. He still gets out. I think he's a very, 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 not only a very nice fella, a very underrated sort of player. I do think, though, that his Ireland career could have been greater.
His relationship with Jack wasn't a great one.
It
was fresh at the time. I even recall that in around 1990 when he was in the squad, obviously for the World Cup, and his fitness wasn't what he wanted it to be. But there was a sense that his fitness wasn't exactly what Jack wanted it to be, not necessarily what he wanted it to be. Similar, I guess, to the 88 final. And that he feels he could have played himself, and Jack was like, I'm okay with Andy.
I think the three players he didn't trust were Ronnie, Liam Brady and David O'Leary.
Three of the most naturally gifted footballers.
All Dubliners, and also that goes
the
back to
anti-Dublin bias, and it goes back to the 80s.
It goes back to the Paul Rowan story, the team that Jack built. I came in, I was going to put my foot down, I was going to break up these cosy cartels, and he humiliated Frank Staple when we brought him to Italy in 1990 and never gave him a second. He didn't bring Liam Brady to the Italian 90s, still the greatest on goal by any international manager.
He says he regrets the Stapleton thing. I remember reading that about Charlton. He had 5 strikers.
He treated Frank terribly. And he Bernie Slavin and David Kelly, who were ahead of Frank.
And John Byrne.
Who were all, but the Whelan one of the World Cup was interesting, because I was doing his column at the time for the Evening Herald, and I was doing pick me, Ronnie, I'm fit, pick me. This is our story every day. And we were getting the Herald brought out, and I was from the team hotel and dropping them where I knew Jack would be, a bit like Hansel and Gretel, little breadcrumbs around the hotel. Jack's bound to see one of these Heralds. And eventually he picked him up and he's going, what is this? Pick me, I'm fit. What is he bloody well know? And he showed it down, and maybe I did Ronnie more harm. But Ronnie tells a story that Jack put him on against the Dutch.
Did you tell him this when you were doing the interview, by the way?
Possibly. But he recalled I was doing the column all right, but against Holland, it was 1-1, and it was at that stage we hadn't heard what was going on in the England game. The Angelus hadn't been decided. They sort of, we
down tools.
And he sent on Ronnie, and apparently Ronnie says that one of the lads in the dugout said after a couple of minutes, look, this is Jack. When Ronnie goes on, I told you he wasn't fit. You can't do it for me. And Ronnie didn't play then against Romania at all, when it was crying out for someone. With the heat of that day, shakers. It was crying out for someone to get on the ball. And then against Italy in the quarter-final, we need a goal. It's 1-0. We're 1-0 down. 20 minutes to go. Jack turns around and says, Shez, on you go. John Sheridan, first touch, put the ball to the corner, up top of the stand. Ronnie would have been able to get on the ball and maybe play a pass, as Brady would have done. He just said Jack didn't trust him. He said Jack didn't trust Kevin Sheedy either. He wanted midfielders to run. He didn't want them to get on the ball. He wanted his full-backs to knock it long and midfielders to get up and support. And Townsend could do that very, very well. Andy had no beef with Andy Townsend, or Ronnie had no beef with Andy Townsend. But I do think the Irish thing ended very sourly, because then he came back towards the end of his career when Jack had lost his grip, if you like, on that Euro 96 campaign, and there was the Liechtenstein game. And Ronnie was screaming even on the pitch, give the ball to me and I'll get it out.
He was still the fulcrum. He was still the very centre.
And Jack was saying, no, knock it long. And Ronnie was talking to Jack, you've got to get it through the middle. Let's draw them out. Let's get the Liechtensteiner guys up out of the penalty area, up towards the halfway line, and then we play a little ball in behind them. No, it was long Route 1 stuff, and they were heading it away. And then there was the Oscar game a few days later where the lads sort of, it was hidey on Limerick for a week, and that was the end of it. And another man, Jack Charlton, another man who stayed too long. But to me, Ronnie, one of the great footballers, and a different type of player to maybe what the archetype of midfielder is now, or what Jack Charlton wanted. But a wonderful footballer, and his record, exceptional.